So why, I hear you ask, am I driving in my car and making a video about, of all things, security of houses? Well, earlier today I was thinking to myself I was going to make a video about exactly that, because in the last day or so we've got a lot of messages from people who have been watching our videos about houses and properties and asking the question of, why do I often talk about securing your property, particularly with things like barbed wire or razor wire, and why do I have so much of an emphasis on these things, bars on windows and such things? And it's raised a few concerns out there, because people are saying, well, is it really that bad? What's going on there? What's with all the precautions? And do I have to be worried if I was heading to Paraguay? So with that, I was intending to do just a follow-up video just to explain a few things and talk about some of the things that I've seen, and just to give my 2 cents worth about issues relating to security of properties. But when I was thinking about making this video, I was thinking, well, man, it's a pretty dry subject. How am I going to make that interesting? And as I was thinking away, I happened to be walking up a flight of stairs in my kitchen area, and I just tripped over and smashed my hand against the wall, and I've dislocated my finger. I don't know if that really comes up very clearly, but my finger was kind of like at a right angle. I pretty seriously knocked it out of joint, and it distracted me for a minute. I thought, oh well, there it goes. The video's going to have to take a back seat. I'm going to have to sort this finger out. So, like in a good old cowboy movie, I tried to pull it back into place, and I partially managed to get it there, but it's pretty much stuck in position and a little bit kind of bent, so it might be broken. So I have to get myself to hospital. And I thought, wow, that's a bummer. There goes the all exciting video about home security. But then I thought, hang on, wouldn't a home security video in the midst of a medical emergency be a whole lot more exciting? So I thought, no. In the noble tradition of the Guild of YouTube Etiquette, I thought, no, nothing will stop me from making this video. So I'm bringing you along with me to the hospital, and at the same time I get an opportunity just to say what I wanted to say in regards to this issue of home security. I often do talk about home security, and when I go through properties I note whether there's bars on windows, or if the wall's high enough, and maybe there might be a suggestion of something like putting up razor wire or anything like this. And I just wanted to give some context to that, because I know, coming from a Western country, these things are generally foreign to us. In our residential premises, we don't usually put bars in our windows, or not always anyway. And we definitely don't see much in the way of razor wire or anything like that in, say, the places that I've come from. But things are different here, but it's not because it's necessarily a greater risk in itself, but there are some things that, as foreigners, we need to keep in mind. 2 specific things that I think contribute to the reason why I tend to be quite insistent on my views about improving security at some of these places. The first thing is that when you look at houses here in Qroo Pauls and many other parts of Paraguay, and absolutely most of the other countries I've travelled through in South and Central America, security of the home tends to be perhaps at a higher level than what it is in the places I've come from. It's common to see razor wire or barbed wire, high fences. Sometimes they'll put broken bottles on the top of walls, and they generally have bars on the windows, and that could give you the impression that there's some really great risk that, my goodness, all these houses are getting done over. Well, it's not necessarily the case. Yes, there's burglaries in Qroo Pauls and other parts of this region like there are anywhere, but I think it's impossible to really gauge whether they're at a heightened level compared to other places. My gut feeling is, I've lived in a lot of other places where the burglary rate in residential areas would be higher. It's not a massive factor. You're not hearing about these things all the time, except when it comes to foreigners, people who have recently arrived. The reality is that as a foreigner, someone that's just recently arrived here, you do catch the eye of people. The average Paraguayan isn't targeting you. Most Paraguayans are wonderful people. And I think in general, if I was to drop my wallet in any town, I would prefer to drop it in somewhere like Qroo than most other places, because I have a high level of regard and trust for most Paraguayan people. They're generally ethical people and they're not out to rip you off. There are some countries where drop your wallet, your chances of getting it back are 0 to none. It's not so in Paraguay in general. Paraguayans are good people. But like any country, there is an element of opportunists, thieves, criminals, like everywhere on earth. So when you come into a country and you present as a foreigner, you're at a heightened risk. Foreigners are perceived to have money because you're traveling. You may have a reasonable amount of cash on you, and you may have other valuable items that people would covet, or in particular, criminals. Because we are foreigners, we often rent when we first get here. And that's part of the problem, because when you rent, you kind of have to take what you get. A lot of rental properties have incomplete security, put it that way. So the two things, the fact that you're a foreigner combined with the fact that you're living in the house that may have the weakest security along the street, those two things combine to present a heightened degree of risk for you in terms of burglaries, break-ins to your house when you're not there. We have a lot of friends, both Paraguayan and foreigners. In terms of the Paraguayans, I don't think I've heard of any of them having any trouble with break-ins. But conversely, we know of a number of foreigner friends that we have here who have been subject to break-ins, mostly when they haven't been there. On one occasion, there was a break-in when someone was at home, but I think that may have been more of a mistake on the burglar's part than anything. I don't think they realised that there was anyone at home. But nonetheless, we do hear, not infrequently, of foreigners who have break-ins to their premises when they're not there. So it is a fact that you need to take a fair degree of care when it comes to securing your house. And at the very least, it needs to be secured on the same level as what a Paraguayan would secure their house. Because all things equal, if a criminal's walking down the street and thinking about which house he's going to break into, it's likely that it's going to be the house with the least amount of security on the walls or on the windows. And so right off the bat, you're presenting a greater risk. But couple that with being a foreigner, you're going to be a heightened chance of falling foul to the potential of having a break-in when you're not there. The issue of crime in general is something that is quite polarising, and a lot of people have varying views on it. People have made various comments on some of our videos about the level of crime in Paraguay, and some people have a really heightened sense of concern about it. Someone recently commented that they think that Qroo is a really dangerous place, and they've lived there. Presumably they've experienced some things or seen some things. I don't diminish or doubt their experience, but I think that when it comes to such an emotive issue, we can all come to the table with perhaps an extreme and in some cases not entirely accurate position on the issue. My personal experience has been that Paraguay has been a very safe place for us. In the time we've been here, 14, 15 months, we have not seen any overt criminal activity, and there's been nothing that's given us real cause for concern. We've been out at all hours of the day and night, and we have friends that have done likewise. And in terms of personal safety, we've never had an issue. It's not to say that it couldn't happen, but we're fairly observant, we're fairly on the ball when it comes to such things. So if they were a day-to-day, in-your-face proposition, we would know about them. And they're not the case here. I don't discount the possibility that something could happen. It could happen like anywhere. It's like any country. If you think about where you are or where we moved from, if you ask me what's the crime like in the place that I previously lived, I'd have to spend some time to unpack it, because one part of the country, one part of the city, one part of the town can be different from the other. So it's unreasonable to get onto a blog or a YouTube channel and just say Paraguay is very safe, or it's very unsafe, or it's low in crime, it's high in crime. You just can't make such a rash, one-dimensional position on anything. My position and feeling about this country is actually corroborated by some other people who are online. For example, Plan B, Paul, he's made a video in regards to crime, particularly as it relates to Asuncion, so too has Paraguay Mike. And in both regards, they tend to generally confirm what I'm saying. That is, yes, there's crime in certain areas. Yes, there's certain places that you need to be careful about. But in general, they consider Paraguay to be safe. And in both instances, they've brought their lives and their families here. And just like us, we wouldn't be here if it was a really crazy, unstable, dangerous place. That should give you some level of comfort that I'm just not just spinning a yarn. There are other people on YouTube and other forums that will generally corroborate what I'm saying, that there are some things you need to be cautious about, but when you measure everything up, it's a safe place. I can say for certain that this is a safer place than the place we previously resided before we left to go to Guatemala over 2 years ago. So I just want everyone to take some comfort in that, and not think that there must be some deep, sinister issue when I'm talking about home security and razor wire and things of this nature. I know it sort of sounds quite confronting, razor wire. These are things that are pretty hardcore when you talk about them in a Western country sense, but they're just a reality here. They're a low-cost way of ensuring that that perimeter is pretty much impossible to climb over, or at least very difficult. And it's just a different mindset. But it doesn't mean that there is some deep, dark, sinister, heightened degree of risk. And I think that part of our perhaps prejudice is because when we think about South America, we do sometimes have a tendency to put it all in the same basket. And there are some pretty extreme countries on this continent, and we tend to go, South America, well, we know how that story ends, but it's not the case. The situation in Paraguay is vastly different to neighbouring countries and countries further up in Central America. There are some countries that are really sketchy. Paraguay's not one of them. But I always caution any country. The country that you're sitting right now is multifaceted, and we're not 100% safe wherever we are. There's just different profiles of risk in the places that we come from that we need to be mindful of. I just wanted to put that out there because I've had a number of comments, and I thought, well, I don't want to create this kind of fear or misrepresent the realities of what's going on here. I just want to present it as real as possible and to give people a realistic picture, because that's what it's all about. I want this little device that I'm talking into to be like a window between where you are and where we are, and tell you the good, bad, and the ugly, the reality of things here. Because I think when things are unsaid or inferred, sometimes they can be whipped up in our minds, and we can sometimes think that it's more than it is. But generally things are okay here. When we're talking about crime, and safety, particularly as it relates to our property. I should also add that as foreigners, particularly when we move to rural areas where we've got a property and it's out in the rural areas where there aren't as many people around, I think that that's a situation where you need to be extra on guard when it comes to your property. Most definitely when you're not there. Because in any community, there's a small element of bad eggs, and you only need one. What you do in those situations, well, everyone's got different perspectives and ways to address it. It's probably something for future videos actually, because I don't think there's any one answer, but there's several considerations that need to be made, and you need to make the plan that's best for you based on your realities, your budget, your situation. Everyone is different. If you live in a country where your life be hell and you'll never be able to leave and you'll have to nail everything down, not necessarily, but you'll definitely want to have things in place. You can't just move out to the country, not have enough security and just live happily ever after. It just doesn't work that way. And unfortunately, the reality is, as foreigners, we just have to accept that we do kind of stick out. We just need to face that reality and not get too caught up in it, not underestimate it, but definitely not overestimate it either. We don't need to whip ourselves up into a frenzy. There's always a risk wherever you are, and you might have a lesser risk in one regard, but in another regard, you might have to deal with another one. So that's generally the way it goes. The good thing is there are measures that we can put in place and things we can do to at least reduce the risk that we might face, because life doesn't have to be a constant struggle. We don't have to always feel like we're under attack. Someone's going to come and get us. That's no way to live a life. We need to celebrate the freedoms that we have here and just keep chipping away and improving the quality of life. As I speak to you, I'm making my way to the hospital. We tend to go to the Mennonite hospital. We've been there a few times before, and they've always been awesome. It's an easy drive there. I don't know how much this little escapade's going to cost me. I imagine I might have to get an x-ray. At the very least, they're going to have to pull this digit back into place and sort it out. But if nothing else, hopefully it makes this video a little bit more interesting. 2 birds for the price of 1 stone. It's all fun. The life and the day of a Nimrod like me who goes and does something silly like that. Oh well, maybe I'm just getting old. Anyway, I'll let you know how I get on once I book myself in, and hopefully these wonderful doctors will perform miracles. We'll see. So about an hour and a half later, exam, x-ray, anaesthetic, and pulled back into place. It just turned out it was just a dislocation. So all's well that ends well. Medical emergency diverted. And all that for 480 mil. Every time I come to this hospital, it's been a few times now, I'm just blown away at how amazing the place is. It's clean, the service is amazing, and the staff are just wonderful. So what a wonderful service for this community. The Mennonite Hospital and the community here in Paraguay, amazing people. Qroo Pauls also got a hospital and it does the best it can. I prefer to come here for a few reasons. One, because I can find people that I can communicate with. Two, I don't want to go to the Qroo Pauls Hospital because it's often overwhelmed. It doesn't need me rocking up there. So if I can drive a few more kilometres and come out here, all the better. It's mid-afternoon here, so they usually are busy only in the mornings. And I was pretty much by myself out there by this time. So I feel very appreciative to be in a country where you can access really good health service. What more can I say? Very, very blessed. This video is not to diminish anyone's experience. I know some people have had bad experiences and they will come on to this forum and say, no, actually it's a crazy, dangerous place and they know crazy things that have happened. And I don't doubt that, because that's life in any country. I could talk about some crazy, dangerous things that have happened in every country that I've lived in, and I imagine wherever you are, you're probably likewise. We just need to keep things into perspective, and that's why initially I didn't really want to talk about this too much, because I know it can polarize people, and it's not a binary conversation. It's not, it's all dangerous or it's all safe. There's nuances in everything, and my experience here in this department may well be different to other departments. So I think that there's probably validity in whatever anyone says, from the one extreme to the other. This medical emergency has been a blessing, because I've got the opportunity to show you where we go when something goes wrong, and also talk about the boring topic that I had lined up. And if nothing else, it expresses to you guys just how much I love you. And even when I'm faced with a life or death situation, I still fire up the camera, because, hey, that's what we do. We just chip away and try and make everyone's life better, and together we will make it here in Paraguay. One step at a time, one dislocation at a time, and hopefully we'll all get there in the end, one way or another. So until next time, take care. Ciao.